Okay, so episode 2 of Chainsaw Man is here, and in this video we're about to break down everything you need to know. During this second episode, Denji officially becomes a government devil hunter, and today we'll be explaining who his new teammates are, why one of them tried to set him up, and the huge differences between the anime and manga. Before we get into it though, I do these reviews every week, so I'd really appreciate it if you hit that sub button if you haven't already, and as usual, drop a like if you like the video. Alright, so at the end of the previous episode, Makima gave Denji a choice, which is that she either kills him for being a devil or she keeps him as her pet human. Ultimately, he chose to survive by picking option number 2, and in the opening scene of this new episode, a topless Denji rides in the car next to her. Early on in their conversation, Makima kind of sets the tone for their relationship, as she tells him that now that he's in her care, she expects that whenever she asks him to do something, he should either give a yes answer or just bark like a dog. It was implied that under no circumstances is he allowed to tell her no, and to me this was a very important scene for 3 reasons. Firstly, it shows that Makima literally views Denji as a dog just like the Yakuza did, and in fact if you look closely during the opening song, we can even see her walking him like a dog on the beach. This demonstrates that even if Denji is free from his debt, he still managed to find himself in a situation where people are using him like a tool. The other reasons why this moment matters is that it very quickly establishes that Makima has a dark side, and it shows us how easily Denji can be manipulated. What I mean by that is that after she calls him a dog, he gets offended and starts to realize that she might be a dangerous person, but then as soon as she does something nice, he immediately forgets about it and chooses to only focus on her good side. In this episode alone, it happened 2 separate times, and I think this is a case of Denji subconsciously choosing to ignore the red flags, because at the end of the day, Makima is enabling him to live his dream life. Anyhow, as they ride in the car, Denji's stomach loudly starts to growl, and this is because the last thing he ate was just a plain slice of bread the previous day. Hearing this noise, Makima offers to take him to breakfast and pay for anything he wants, and on top of that, she gives him her jacket so he can cover himself. From Denji's point of view, this was mind-blowing on a few different levels, since it's the first time another human has been this nice to him. Usually, most people don't even go near him because he smells so bad, so the fact a girl is willing to hug him, buy him food, and give him a jacket, he falls in love with her straight away regardless of how dangerous she might be. As they arrive at the cafe, this is when the biggest difference between the anime and manga takes place, as the anime cuts out an entire scene when Denji fought against a devil. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to summarize what happens in that fight and why I think it was taken out, and I'd recommend that you watch this part even if you only care about the episode. Okay, so in the manga, Denji orders his food, and then immediately after that, a random man comes up to them asking for help. He tells Makima that a devil kidnapped his daughter and took her into the forest, and usually something like that would be the job of the public safety devil hunters. However, in this moment, Makima doesn't want to get involved since her noodles will get soggy if she's gone for too long, and instead she sends Denji to deal with it. When Denji then questions this decision, she reminds him that he has to do anything she says, and basically she threatens to kill him if he doesn't prove that he's useful. In the anime, these words were repurposed so that she says it to him in the car instead, but in any case, after being threatened, a frightened Denji then runs into the woods where he finds the missing girl playing with a cute looking devil. The girl begs him to let the devil go as she claims that it saved her from her abusive father, which reminds Denji of how Pochita saved him when he was younger. Not wanting to kill the cute devil, he proposes that the 3 of them run away together and start a new life, because he knows that Makima will murder him if he comes back empty-handed. The young girl then happily agrees to this plan to run away, but as she makes contact with Denji, her pet devil suddenly transforms into this gigantic creature. As it turns out, this monster is the Muscle Devil, and as the name suggests, it's able to control the muscles of any person it's touching. This means that the whole time it was controlling the girl to make her say what it wanted her to say, and by luring Denji in, his muscles are now under its control. However, in response, Denji manages to pull the cord on his chest by using his mouth instead of his hands, and after turning into Chainsaw Man, he rips apart the Muscle Devil and brings the girl safely back to her dad. When he sees Makima again, he then accidentally collapses into her chest due to him losing a ton of blood during his fight with the Muscle Devil. Ultimately, the reason I think this was cut was due to pacing, since episode 1 adapted 55 pages of the manga, whereas episode 2 is in theory meant to adapt over 70 pages. To do this in a way that feels natural, I guess they decided that the Muscle Devil was something they didn't 100% need to put in, given that this villain isn't important, and the episode still flows well without it being there. Now, at the cafe, Makima and Denji talk about how he originally turned into Chainsaw Man in the first place, and in the process we learn that Pochita isn't dead, but rather he's physically alive inside of Denji's body. Thanks to Makima's special nose, she has the ability to smell that this is the case, and following that, she feeds him his noodles after he pretends that he can't feed himself. Based on her facial expressions, you can tell that she's genuinely intrigued by him, because in all likelihood she's never met someone who can shift between being a devil and a human at will. Makima even mentions in this scene how the condition is so rare that it doesn't even have a name, and this rarity is why he's so valuable to her even if he might be an idiot. Moving on, because Denji has a crush on her, he anxiously asks Makima if there's a type of guy she likes, and this was interesting because in the first episode, one of his main ambitions was to flirt with a girl. Him now asking her this question is probably the most direct, unsubtle way of flirting imaginable, showing us that, although it might have been his dream, he's still not quite sure how to do it properly. Despite that, Makima does respond with the same energy, as she says that she's into the Denji type, but because he's so bad at this, it takes him a while to realize who she's talking about. By the way, in case you're wondering what her true feelings are, keep in mind that she's only known Denji for a few hours. The only reason she didn't kill him is because he's obeying her like a dog, and by his own admission, he smells terrible. I guess that should give you a rough idea of what she thinks about him, but regardless, the episode then moves over to Tokyo Devil Hunter HQ. This building is the main base for all public safety devil hunters in the city, and before we continue, it's worth explaining how the system works. In Japan, you have two types of devil hunters, which are the public safety devil hunters like Makima, and the civilian devil hunters like the guy we see later in the episode. Civilian devil hunters are essentially self-employed, meaning they get to decide how often they want to work and which devils they want to go after. They then get paid bounties from the government depending on which type of devil they kill, and if authorized, they can make contracts with devils to boost their own power. In comparison, public safety devil hunters work full-time for the Japanese government, and they pretty much have to fight whoever their boss tells them to fight. This means that a public safety agent is much more likely to die facing off against the strongest devils, but in exchange they get a good benefits package and paid days off work. Now, back at HQ, Makima spells out most of this to Denji, and he begins to think that working in public safety will be a good thing for his master plan. In his mind, the more time they spend together at work, the better odds he has of getting with Makima romantically, and as a horny teenager, this is the most important thing in the world to him. However, as he gets his uniform, Makima unexpectedly pairs him up with Aki Hayakawa, who's one of the male devil hunters also based in Tokyo. Unlike Denji, Aki is a serious type who has an intense hatred for all devils, as his entire family was killed by a devil when he was younger. For that reason, he has strong personal motivations for wanting to do this job, and later in the episode he mentions how he loves to kill them in the most painful way he can. By contrast, Denji is someone who's been friends with a devil, he was willing to spare a devil's life in the manga, he can transform into a devil, and on top of that, his main career goal is to get with Makima. From Aki's perspective, someone as unserious as this has no place in public safety, and it's why, on their first patrol together, he takes him into a dark alleyway and beats him up. This beatdown was meant to be a warning for Denji to quit, because to him, anyone who does this job for frivolous reasons ends up dead every single time. Over the past 3 years that he's been a devil hunter, all of his teammates that got into this career for money ended up being killed, and the only ones left standing were those like him who had strong convictions. When it comes to Denji, he obviously doesn't have any of that, and so although Aki is disgusted by him, he's also kind of trying to help him in his own way, because if Denji quits, then at least he won't be murdered by a devil. Following that, he lights another cigarette as he walks away, but before he can leave, Denji attacks his balls with full force from behind. One thing we need to understand about Denji is that he has absolutely no code of honor or anything like that, so he has no problem aiming for Aki's nuts the entire fight. As he continues to kick, he makes it clear that although his reasons for being a devil hunter might be shallow, it's still this job that allows him to live his dream life. So far on his first day, he's been able to have a proper breakfast, flirt with a girl, and get some brand new clothes, which already makes this a million times better than working for the Yakuza. Because of that, he's not willing to give up his new life so easily, and Denji keeps kicking Aki in the balls until he gradually passes out. One interesting thing that was heavily implied from their exchange is that Aki also has a crush on Makima as well, so his motivation to beat Denji up is partly fueled by jealousy, especially after she flirted with Denji right in front of him. Later on in the episode, he also gets loudly offended when he hears that she gave Denji a hug, so yeah, the jealousy thing is definitely an element in what's going on here. Sometime later, back at HQ, even though these two clearly don't get along, Makima carries on with her plan of putting Denji into Aki's unit. Within public safety, there are multiple units that each serve different purposes, and the team Denji is joining is Special Division 4, which is an experimental squad filled with the weirdest people they have. This place is the best fit for Denji, mainly due to his unusual talents and his weird personality, and so Makima was always going to put him there regardless of whether Aki likes him or not. In this meeting, Makima then goes on to explicitly confirm what we already knew, which is that if Denji ever quits public safety or disobeys his orders, then he'll be killed by them as if he was a devil. What this means is that for the rest of his life, he'll be working for them and is presumably never allowed to retire, and you can tell from Aki's expression that even he was surprised by this. After the meeting, we then get confirmation that these two will be living together from this point forward, and like Makima said, if Denji tries to run, then Aki has permission to kill him. In that sense, Chainsaw Man is now totally the prisoner of the Japanese government, and as he walks down the street, he begins to question Makima's morality. On the one hand, she has been kind to him and treated him with more respect than the Yakuza did, but on the other side, she's also proven that she's willing to sacrifice him if he doesn't do what she says. This confusion causes him to ask Aki whether he thinks she's a bad person, but considering that Aki also has a crush on her, I don't see a scenario where he doesn't say that she's a good person. Because Denji has a simple mind, he takes this statement at face value, and chooses to think about the time she was nice to him while disregarding all the blatant threats she made to his life. Now, the next morning at Aki's house, he begins to fully live out his dreams, but in the process, he triggers his new roommate in a handful of different ways. For a start, Denji raids the kitchen to create his ultimate toast, which is basically toast topped with marmalade, honey, butter, cinnamon, and 3 different types of jam. Remember, just a couple days earlier, he thought that putting jam on his bread is something he'd never be able to afford to do. So to have all these toppings is like a once-in-a-lifetime experience. By itself, that probably doesn't get on Aki's nerves, but what annoys him is that Denji kind of just leaves the leftover mess all over the living room table, and he's super loud when using the bath, not to mention that he also fell asleep while using the toilet and then didn't replace the missing toilet paper. Considering that this is the first day of living together, you can tell that Aki doesn't feel comfortable with the situation going on, hence why later in the episode he tries to set Denji up. Before we get to that though, the two of them are called out by the police to deal with the fiend. In my last episode review, I explained what a fiend is, but in case you haven't seen that, a fiend is a type of devil that possesses the dead corpse of a human. In nearly all cases, a fiend will have the devil's personality and distinct features on their head that lets everyone know what they are. This is completely different to Denji, who still retains his own personality and doesn't have any weird features on his face, enabling him to mostly appear like a normal human. As he and Aki then arrive at the house where the fiend is hiding, we see that an unknown devil has possessed the body of a random middle-aged man. In the background, there's a cage for the bird that it's currently eating, and on the floor there are tons of explicit magazines that Denji instantly notices. Not wanting to get them dirty with blood, he decides to cleanly chop off this devil's head with an axe rather than using his messy chainsaws, but when Aki questions that decision, Denji decides not to tell him the truth. Maybe he thinks that Aki would try to take the magazines for himself or something, but whatever the reason, Denji pretends like he only killed the devil this way to give it a painless death. This triggers Aki again because, like we established, he hates devils more than anything, and so for him to see a devil hunter sympathizing with devils, it makes him even more suspicious of Denji than he already was. In reality though, Chainsaw Man didn't care in the slightest about the devil he killed, but I guess this cover story was needed to hide his true horny motivations. Following this, Denji has a moment of self-reflection where he remembers his contract with Pochita, and I guess the issue here, if you can call it that, is that he's already fulfilled his contract within just a couple days. What Pochita wanted was for Denji to show him his dreams, which is something he's already doing by, eating good food, getting to wash himself, getting to hang around Makima, and just doing normal things outside of work. Despite achieving this perfect life, he still feels like there might be something missing, which plays into what he said in episode 1 when he realized that people will always dream about having a better life no matter how good their current life might be. This train of thought leads him to wonder what his next true goal might be, and after thinking about Makima, he comes to the conclusion that his real serious goal in life is to touch her boob. Honestly, I think I might have had a similar dream to this at one point, so I'm not gonna act like it's that strange, especially considering that a hug is the most he's ever gotten. Because of Denji's previous financial situation, he'd completely given up on the idea of a girl allowing him to touch her melons, but now that he has a good job, the odds are in his favor if he takes it seriously. This is where Power comes in, as later in the episode, she becomes his new buddy at work. Thanks to Aki's personal recommendation, Denji and Power are paired up to patrol the neighborhood for devils, and what makes her special is that she's not actually a human. Instead, Power is a highly intelligent fiend who's possessed the dead body of a teenage girl, but after zooming in on her chest, none of that matters to Denji, as he views this as his best chance to fulfill his brand new dream. On a related note, it should be said that no ordinary fiend would choose to become a devil hunter, but due to Makima's threats, Power's kind of been forced into this lifestyle. In that sense, her and Denji are in the same situation, in that they're both experiments who Makima is testing to see if they can do the job, but if they don't live up to her expectations, then yeah, she's probably gonna kill them. In any case, Denji and his new buddy then start patrolling the rooftops for devils, and straight away it becomes clear just how unpredictable Power is. Although it's true that she's smarter than the average fiend, she's still primarily motivated by her basic devil instincts, which are to kill things and to eat things. That's why she erratically runs around looking for something to kill, whether it be a devil or a human, I'm guessing, And from this behavior, Denji realizes pretty early on that she's a bit crazy, but he's willing to tolerate that craziness if it means he gets to touch some melons. As they continue to walk, they then come across this cat just chilling on the roof, and although Denji walks straight past it, Power intensely stares at it, and even as she keeps walking, her head is still facing backwards. This fascination is foreshadowing that cats are the only animal she gets along with, and this will likely be explored further in the episode next week. For now though, the two of them keep searching the area for devils, but they eventually take a break after they can't find a single one. Given that tracking down and capturing devils is pretty much their whole job, both their lives are at risk if they can't get the results that Makima is looking for. In this scene, Power reveals that the devils are likely avoiding them because of her, because back in the day she used to be a powerful devil, with the manga confirming that she was the Blood Devil. As you'd expect, the Blood Devil represents humanity's fear of blood, and there are a decent amount of people out there who do have this particular fear. It's not uncommon for people to faint when they see blood or avoid situations that would cause blood to be exposed, and all of that fear contributes to the Blood Devil's strength. According to her, this strength is enough to scare the weaker devils away, and while she could be lying, there is a reason why I think she's at least partly telling the truth. Remember, Denji and Power were only paired together because Aki suggested it, and if Power's presence causes devils to run away, then it means Denji is less likely to get results. In that way, Aki has potentially set him up to fail, which is good news for him if it means that Denji stops being his roommate. However, on the other hand, I did mention in my last video that devils lose a significant amount of strength when they become fiends, so in theory, Power might not be as strong as she thinks she is. It's equally possible that the reason they haven't found any devils is because they're both just inexperienced, and maybe instead of setting Denji up, Aki paired him with Power so that he wouldn't be the one looking after him. With that said, episode 2 comes to an end with Power suddenly detecting the scent of blood nearby, and she quickly rushes off, leaving Denji behind. As he tries to keep up, she does some pretty impressive parkour over the rooftops before casually jumping off a building, and in this moment she activates her true power. One of her many abilities as the Blood Devil is that she can manipulate her own blood to create weapons, and in this case she transforms the blood coming out of her wrist into a giant mallet. This mallet was made to crush the sea cucumber devil down below, but as we can see there was already a civilian devil hunter dealing with the situation. One of the rules in Japan is that if a civilian devil hunter is involved with a devil, then it's illegal for public safety devil hunters to just interfere and kill it. The reason for this rule is to presumably protect the earnings of civilian hunters who get paid based on the devils they capture and kill. But in this scene, Power just completely ignores it as she splatters the sea cucumber in a moment that was both colourful and brilliantly animated. Now, before we dive into my personal rating for the episode, one thing I didn't find time to mention was the painting in Makima's office, which was visible as Aki pulled Denji across the floor. This artwork seems to be a similar style to the painting we see in chapter 81 called The Fall of Lucifer, which depicted Satan falling from heaven. Although the two paintings aren't the same, they definitely have the same biblical tone, so if you have any idea where this new painting is from, then let me know in the comments down below. In terms of my thoughts on the episode, it did a lot of things that I liked, including amazing shots like the one of Makima's eye, Power destroying the sea cucumber, and the camera work on Power's chest, so I'd say that visually it is more pleasing than episode 1. The one thing I didn't like was that they removed the muscle devil, and don't get me wrong, I'm not pretending that this was a big deal, but I was kind of surprised that they took it out completely. My guess is that they must have like a specific point where they want the season to end, and to reach that point in the amount of episodes they have, I guess this was just a necessary thing that had to be cut. However, the reason I was surprised they took it out is because last week during episode 1, I mean that was the perfect adaptation of the first chapter, and so to see such a huge chunk of episode 2, being missing, that was a big shock. Overall though, I'd still give this episode a 9.5 out of 10, and if you want these Chainsaw Man breakdowns to continue, then don't forget to hit that sub button and drop a like if you're feeling generous. Until the next one, peace out.